knock stuff out.
Right, here you go, Kenny. This is just a quick speed tutorial on how I painted some of your Praetorians so that you can do them and I don't have to. So start with the model sprayed white. These are models that you've stripped with the Dettol, I think. There's some of them, a little bit of colour shows through, but it does seem to me that Dettol's a pretty solid way to do models for stripping. So I started with the basic blood red paint, and away you go. Trick is, of course, don't be neat, don't worry about it. This is the main coat. Obviously most of the model is mostly red, so you don't have to be too neat with it. You just have to make sure you get a nice even coverage on. I've watered the paint down. No, honestly, I really have. You just have to accept that fact as I did water the paint down. And you can see that I'm not sparing any time for detail or anything at this point. This is just the first coat. And that's him, mostly done with the red. As you can see, that's a very vibrant red over white, and it does dry at that tone as well. So that's that. Next one, completely different model, but done at the same sort of speed. Out comes Tarlan flesh. Not paying any attention whatsoever to details and stuff. The paint is thinned down, and because it's a Games Workshop foundation paint, it should go straight on. I'm deliberately painting over bits of red that I've painted before, even though that red's well placed. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to be having to spend about 10 minutes per model tidying them. Same thing is true of the hands. It's about getting the majority of the paint in the right place at the right time. Bolt gun metal, yeah. Again, bolt gun metal. Don't be afraid to thin it down. It is important to thin the Games Workshop paints down. Again, no style, no finesse, although I've just cleverly painted over a bit there by doing them too fast. We're just getting the metal in. Remember, with an Imperial Guard army, if you spend more than 20 minutes on a model with an Imperial Guard army, you're never really going to have a proper Imperial Guard army that you can play in an Apocalypse game. You'll just have 5 or 6 really well painted models. Congratulations, you're not really a gamer, you're a painter. Or you might not have any models painted. Congratulations, you're derended. Sorry Paul, but it's true. Right, ta-da! Next one. Right, what's next? We'll do his spats, because we're nowhere near the rest of the model basically, and I've got to wait for all that to dry. The spats, I'm using the Cambrian Brown. Again, a foundation paint, and a really good one. You've got to take your hat off to Games Workshop and their foundation paints. It's rapid. Thank you, can of lager, I always want that. And you can do just about anything now. With the spats, I'm deliberately going over where the boots would be, because the boots is a stage beyond this, so all this untidiness will be covered up. Right, what's the next one? Hopefully the red's dry. Got Enchanted Blue. Nobody uses Enchanted Blue. Everybody uses Ultramarine Blue, or sometimes Mordian Blue, because Mordian Blue's a really good one. But, oops, I've got Enchanted Blue here. Why am I using Enchanted Blue? Because it was in my bag of paints and I forgot to take it out. Oh, it's hearing me not talking now because I'm trying to do detail work with this brush. Yeah, I know Kenny, the brushes are awful. For a guy who doesn't do any painting, he obviously talks a lot about the quality of my brushes. Okay. Right, okay. Talk about the way that an army painter decides on how he works on the composition of his model. Obviously you want a single bold tone that will draw people's eye. It's also the quickest to paint. But after that you need things like accent colours that will also draw the eye, that you maybe do a little bit more work on. So the Enchanted Blue, as you can see, is quite a strong blue, and it works quite well against the red. So what's the next thing to do? Well, try to think really. We'll do the boots. We'll do these little booties. So black, no messing about. I don't really plan on spending that much time on the boots. Generally I like to do boots on most of my models black where possible, because what will tend to happen is when you try and base your model later, you'll probably get paint on it, on the feet, and if you do, let's just keep it black so that you can fix it nice and quickly. So there we are, just literally flicking the paint on, not really paying that much attention to it. Kenny's hopefully going to do a tutorial for me on how he did his bases for these Praetorians, because they are pretty cool, and he's using I'm not sure which company it is that does it, but it's a really cool company that's got little tufts of grass that you can add on. That's Army Builder apparently, he says mumbling. So Army Builder do some tufts of grass, but I'm sure there's lots of other companies that do it. Anybody who can find any can mention it on the forum, and I will obviously think about going and buying that. I've got to be brutally honest, one of the things I absolutely hate as an army painter is having to paint bases. I hate bases, I always have hated bases, and I believe I always will hate painting bases. There you can see that's his little booties done. So he's pretty much, what is it? Almost childlike tabletop standard at the moment. If it were me playing with it, I'd be quite tempted to carry on and just leave him like that, but we have got to do some details. So we're out with the brazen brass. Brazen brass, sorry. There, I've shown my age again. You don't even know what brazen brass is. This is tin bits, okay? So it's the much darker version of brazen brass. Not as good. Right, so I'm just brushing the paint off the brush mostly. It's a melter gun, so you'd expect some kind of damage towards the end of the weapon, so we'll brush that on. And then just pay a bit more attention to the very tip of the weapon. Now let's try and think, where else will we want it? Well, we'll probably want, there's a bit of banding around there that we can quickly hide with a bit of brazen brass. And no, not brazen brass, I know it's tin bits. Shut up, I know what I'm talking about. Right, so from the top here, a quick swipe and a swipe, then the other way upside down, a swipe and a swipe, and then basically just fill in the gaps in the middle with the paint that's already on the model. And there we go, that's that banded off. Is there anything else we want? No, I can't be bothered doing anymore, so that's all he's getting. So, what's next? Well, hopefully, I say hopefully, that red will have dried, because the red is taking forever to dry. That's because I put it on quite thin. So we're going to take the Calthan Brown. Now, oddly enough, for an undercoat, sorry, not an undercoat, a foundation, I'm not watering it down, and I always water it down. But in this case, I'm not going to, because I want it to be going on quite thick. The reason being is because I'm not entirely sure that the paint's dry, and I don't want it to just leach onto the red. So there we go, that's the Calthan Brown. Right, snot green, yes it is, no it isn't. I've got a bit of a theme that runs through all my armies. If anyone looks at any of my stuff, if they see any cabling, I always do it snot green, because it comes up really well in a wash, and it's a one coat deal, and I don't have to do any more work. So here's the cabling on the melt gun. Which I'm now struggling with because I'm not bothered to water the paint down. I'm not sure how long this video is, but it feels like it's been taking forever, this. So normally I don't take as long as this because I'm talking. And Kenny's flicking stuff at me as well, which doesn't help. Right, but I've kept my composure relatively well, and that's that done. So, there you can see that's the green on. on the melter gun. Probably should do those tanks as well. Thinking, can I get away with not doing it? Army painter, obviously you're trying to dodge doing any paint at all. Go on then, I'll do it. I don't want to. So, oops, too much paint. We'll edit that out so my basic hand-eye coordination skills don't look like I've got palsy or something. Right, so doing the melter gun. The thing is, I've actually painted one of Kenny's melter guns guys before, but I can't remember how I did it. So this is me just making up. Now what Kenny's going to do is go and get the other guy, and we'll actually see that it's nothing like this at all. I can't believe he's actually going to get the model. You know, my dog doesn't do anything I say. Why should Kenny do it? Right, okay, that's that. Last paint before we go into the tidying up my mess. We have what is that? It's burnished gold, isn't it? Right, burnished gold, let's be honest, it's pants. Games Workshop's least effective metallic. But what it does do is look quite good on a wash, which is essentially what we're going to be doing here anyway. So that looks alright. Draws the eye. Essentially that's the model pretty much done. It's just tidying up now, and then we need to wash it. Now we need to wash it so that we can get the tone in the pants and the helmet get toned out. Then we've got, it's not exactly a highlight, I can't even call it a highlight, it's not a highlight. We're going to do a bit of ice blue on the epaulets, which will bring the epaulets up a bit. So taking the brush, wiping off all the paint, you can see literally I'm taking the paint off. I'm just going to brush across the vertical plane of the epaulet, so the pronounced areas of the epaulet will get picked up. And we take that one and that one in relief, and it's essentially you're just dry brushing, or in this case I suppose the technique would be called wet brushing. But the brush is relatively wet when you do it. There you go. Okay. Last thing to do is get the skull white out. Change the brush to one that's not completely pants. Kenny wasn't listening, so I can say that. Right. Take the skull white. Don't use any of the water because it's filthy, and then just tidy up any of the bits that the red went over onto the white. That was my third hand that did that. Right, there we go. Give him 10 minutes and he's ready to go. There you go. Right, okay, the last thing I'm going to do is wash this thing. So I do put a couple of blobs of water in and a couple of blobs of the ink in. A good mix. Now this is the Devlin Mud, which is another one of Games Workshop's very fine ink ranges. And I'm not going to be very particular about this at all, I'm just hitting it. So this is designed to be quite a contented, heavy wash. Basically it's a terrible thing to do, and it's a very bad habit, I wouldn't let people get into it, is I'm pulling on the model. I'm deliberately putting too much wash on the model. So I'm going to drag the wash around. In the old set, when you did washes before with the old Games Workshop ones, you would do a lot. You wouldn't do as much pulling. But in this case, because I'm lazy and I just can't be bothered, it's not my model. So I'm doing it. You know, slapdash basically. So as you can see, you've got your tone. As long as you're going in the same direction, you'll get your pulling will happen in the right places. Pay a particular attention to the helmet, oddly enough, although that's meant to stay mostly white. With the Praetorians being a battlefield army, we don't want them too white, so we're deliberately making that quite strong. And I've actually very cleverly done that entire model where you can't see it. But you just have to take my word for it. Right, so the last thing to do is the gun. Same thing again, you want that battlefield tone. Devil Mud's very good for the tone. So we'll just brush straight across all the way down. Maybe tone out that snot green that I put on. Probably shouldn't have done that. It should have been the consistency that you get from Dark Angels green. Dark Ranger's green takes a wash very well. It especially takes a very good Devlin mud wash. There you can see that's him pretty much done. When he dries, hopefully Kenny will take a picture of that. But that's it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.